Hello, it's John Heaton here and another video, and today I'm going to be trying to cover my worst album covers of all time. Later on I'll be doing my best album covers of all time, but I'll start with the worst. And I'll say in the era of CD, maybe the album cover's not so important, but in the days of vinyl, it was a treasure to get the album and to take it home and read the lyrics and look at the cover. Those days are gone, but I'm going to relive it with you now. But I'm going to start off with what I consider to be the worst album covers. And I'm actually going to limit it to what's in my collection, so it's not the all-time worst, perhaps. So dreadful album covers not in my collection are not going to feature here, okay? So you're lucky enough just to have stuff which is in my collection. There's some pretty obscure stuff in here, so I apologise for that. I'm going to start off with a couple of albums from Splinter, who were a band on the George Harrison's Dark Horse label. And I'll start off with this one. This is awful, isn't it? Look at Bob Purvis grinning his head off. It's a dreadful cover. You may not have heard of Splinter, but it's a bad cover. Another Splinter album from after they left Dark Horse, although it's not a bad album musically, but cover-wise, look at this. It's bad, right? Okay, it'll get more well-known as we go on. This is an album, this is a couple of albums from Dave Mason now. This is Headkeeper. Terrible, terrible cover. Look at that. This one, probably even worse. And if you think the front cover is worse, the back cover, he's wearing boxing gloves. How bad is that? Sorry, Dave, really. Supertramp. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to show this on YouTube, so I'm going to show you the back cover. The front cover is of a naked woman with tattoos all over her. Supertramp were to do some great covers, but this is their worst. I'm not even going to show you the front cover. Look it on YouTube if you want to see it. This is something I picked up. Sorry, I'm going through my kind of miscellaneous bad album covers before I get to my top 10, which I'll get to. This is a copy of Shaved Fish, John Lennon, which it's an Indian pressing. And look what they've done. They've taken the rubber sole picture of John and, I mean, look at it. It's terrible, isn't it? Picked this up in a Hungarian flea market for about £2 or something. This is quite a well-known album from Genesis, Duke, with a very childish cover on the front. I think a 5-year-old could have done better than this, don't you? This is an Eric Clapton album. EC Was Here, with a pointless naked woman on the front cover and breasts on the back. Terrible, terrible. This ELO album, just a boring cover. This movie, Porky's Revenge, terrible movie, terrible cover. Would you want to go and see this movie if you saw this cover? I don't think so. The Eagles. Pretentious. I hate it. It's just pretentious. It's horrible. Paul Simon. Good album, but look at this cover. It's like a selfie. I mean, in the age of CD, it's defensible maybe, but like Driving Rain, similar from Paul. But in the age of vinyl, this is a bad cover. Sorry, Paul. Harry Nilsson. Look at this. It's ugly, it's horrible. There's a picture in the middle here, which is even worse. I think he's trying to kind of do a parody of Walls and Bridges from John, but it fails dismally. Dave Mason. Another Dave Mason one. Trying to look like Jesus. Doesn't work. Jim Capaldi, the drummer from Traffic. Well, he wrote some good songs with Traffic, and actually his solo albums, some of them are quite decent, but his covers. That's one. Actually, I think we're into the... Are we into the top 10? No, we're not into the top 10. Oh, How We Danced. I mean, this looks like Jim's just woken up in the morning saying, "Oi, was there no milk in the fridge?" It's a bad cover, isn't it? Hasn't washed his hair for a week. Thought that was bad. Electric Nights. Oh dear. Sweet Smell of Success. You probably can't see this one too well. Another dreadful cover from Jim. Sorry, Jim. 10cc. Sort of pointless rubber lettering. Bad. Okay, these are not so bad, but I put them in because they're a bit dull. Emotional Rescue, not a good cover. They even included a poster in this album. A huge poster with similar type pictures, and I've lost it, which is no great loss. George's album Extra Texture. That's pretty uninspired, isn't it? Pretty uninspired. Denny Lane. He'll feature in the top 10, but these are some of his other album covers. A picture of a horse. Holly Days. A pun on the word holiday, yeah, good one. Because it's a Buddy Holly album. Song of Buddy Holly covers. Wings on My Feet from Denny Lane. What a dreadful cover. Look at that. Look at that. Some of the artwork on these covers is abysmal, isn't it? Another terrible cover from Denny, Lonely Road. This is from Paul, Temporary Secretary, the 12-inch single. The secretary is actually on his knee, in case you can see that. Terrible, not in good taste. Wonder what Linda would have thought of this. Spies Like Us, the McCartney single from 1985. How were we supposed to take Paul seriously when he came out with covers like this? Okay, now we're going to move into the top 10. My top 10, all of these top 10 are kind of reasonably better known albums than the ones I've just shown you. Those are just an assortment of bad ones, okay? So number 10, Simon and Garfunkel, Parsley, Sage, Rosemary and Thyme. Look at them. Flowers on the cover, trying to look like choir boys. Horrible, sickly, sweet, horrible. For the Rolling Stones from 1986, look at this for 80s colour. It's like Colin Baker, Doctor Who, isn't it? It's pretty ghastly, isn't it? Quite so bad it's almost funny. Two Virgins from John and Yoko. I'm not going to show you this cover. If you want to check it out on YouTube, it's them naked from the front and back. One of John's worst decisions ever to put this album out. I don't know what to say. And the album is, at least the cover is reflective of what's in the album itself, which is bollocks. My next up is Pink Floyd, Momentary Lapse of Reason. I call it Momentary Lapse of Bollocks. This cover is so pretentious. I know, let's bring a whole lot of beds onto the beach. I mean, really, compare this to their classic covers like Wish You Were Here, Animals, Dark Side of the Moon. This is pretentious bollocks. I hate it, and I don't much like the album either. Next up is an Elton John album from the early 80s called The Fox. Look at this. It's got a picture of Elton on the screen, as if he's saying, and the album is as bad as the cover, by the way. Back cover, just as bad. Uninspired. Next one, a 12-inch single from Paul with Michael Jackson. Say, Say, Say. Look at that picture. It's awful. I mean, compare this, Paul McCartney, Stevie Wonder, 1982, Ebony and Ivory picture, which is tasteful. Compare that to this. Terrible. Another Rolling Stones one here. Under Cover of the Night. I don't know if they were just trying to titillate, you know, let's show a naked woman on the front of our album because we're cool. And on the back there's a token bottom. It's a dreadful cover, isn't it? I hope you agree. We're into the top 4 now. Pink Floyd, Medal. I'm not sure if this is a cow's ear or a cow's nose, but either way, it's a terrible cover. It's a terrible cover. Compare this to their classic ones. I mean, compare it. Next up, number 3. She's the Boss from Mick Jagger. Look at that. In his tracksuit with the woman in the background. Horrible, horrible, horrible. Okay, top 2. AC/DC's first album, High Voltage. Compare this cover to, say, Highway to Hell or Back in Black or Power Ridge when they were cool, hard rockers. Here, they're just a joke. An Australian joke. Bad cartoon. Horrible. Number 1. Well, Denny Laine was in Wings for 10 years with Paul McCartney. He co-wrote Mother of Guitar, one of the biggest selling singles of all time. And after he left Wings, he went from that to this. Hometown Girls from 1985. Just look how bad this cover is. So, it's really bad, isn't it? And on the back, he actually signed it for me. He said, "Hey Jay, you must be serious, Denny Laine," because I'd got this album. So those were some of the bad examples. I'm going to come in my next video to some good album cover artwork, but I just thought I'd try and show some more amusing ones. Pretty bad. Some of them are so bad that they're quite funny, actually. Anyway, thanks for watching and see you next time.